Hey everyone, my name is Marcus Vaz, and today I wanted to talk about issues that a lot of black people are facing within the black community that I feel like we're not discussing as much. What I feel like is really disappointing because these topics, or the ones that I want to talk about, um, are topics that are potentially really destroying black communities and black neighborhoods. Also, I just want to make clear that I'm not an expert in everything within the black community and everything about black people's lives. This is just research that I looked up and that I found that was very appealing and interesting and that is affecting millions of people's of lives. Also want to state that this doesn't affect every black American in this country, but it does affect some black Americans within this country, or the topics that I'm going to be talking about today. So the first issue that I really want to talk about is poverty. You can go into the U.S. Census Bureau, and the U.S. Census Bureau does a multitude of topics like household income, poverty, and also jobs as well, or employment, I should say. And one of the biggest things that's affecting multiple black communities is poverty. So if you look here, here is one of the statistics of income and poverty. If I scroll over, you can see that 11.8% of people are basically living in poverty or living below the poverty line. So as you can see here on this demographic of selected characteristics in 2017 and 2018, about 12.3% of the American population was living below the poverty line, but about 21.7% of those people were Black Americans. And as you see here in 2018, about 11.8% of people live below the poverty line, but about 20.8% of those people are Black Americans. Furthermore, I also want to explain how the education system within these low socioeconomic impoverished neighborhoods are not really helping the community at all, really. As you can see here within the title and the description, students that live in low socioeconomic impoverished neighborhoods are more likely to attend schools that are poor and low income. And this is about one of 100 cities, or the largest cities within the United States of America. And again, I just want to point out that most of these students that are attending these impoverished schools and that live in these large cities are African Americans and Latinos. And the reason why many of these schools are not doing well is because of scarcity, because of underfunding, because of children going to school hungry, because of outdated books. So not many of these students are really benefiting from the educational system within their neighborhoods. Another thing that's affecting many of these communities is structural unemployment. So structural unemployment is unemployment where you can't find a job because you don't have the credentials or the skills towards a certain position of a job or a job in general. Now, yes, you do have different types of employment besides structural unemployment. You have frictional unemployment, you have cyclical unemployment, but I want to talk about structural unemployment because structural unemployment is unemployment where it's hard to find a job because you don't have the credentials or the skills to obtain a certain job, or the job is not within your area. What a lot of these poor communities is filled with. That's why many of these people within these poor communities end up committing crime like selling drugs because there's not enough good quality jobs within the neighborhood, or it's hard to obtain and keep these good quality jobs within the neighborhood or outside the neighborhood. And to prove what I'm saying, I'm showing an article by Economic Policy Institute where black unemployment is twice as higher as white unemployment. As you can see here, that black unemployment is 6.5%. And on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, unemployment rate for black and African Americans is 16.7% last month. But if you looked at the last article, the Economic Policy Institute, It talked about that 6.5% of Black Americans within 2019 were unemployed. But here in the labor statistics, 6.6% of Black Americans are unemployed in April. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, not every Black American that is living within a poor community is unemployed. And that's very true, very true. But there are many poor Black Americans that are taking poverty level wages as well. As you can see here, more Black and Hispanic communities are taking these poverty level wages. The last topic that I want to talk about is college and SAT. And a lot of people think if I go to college, I'm going to get this great job, I'm going to get this great experience within my careers. And I'm here to tell you that that's not always the case for everybody, and that it's also really difficult, or from my experience getting into college, it was really hard to also get into university as well. You're probably thinking to yourself, or yelling at the camera, just because you had a hard time going into university, or just because someone else might have a hard time entering into university or being enrolled into university, doesn't mean that it's hard for everyone to be enrolled into university. There might be some people that it might be easier to get into university. But if you go to a school, like a primary school, and then high school, where it doesn't help you develop your reading and writing skills or your math skills, then it's going to be hard to get into university, because you have things like the standard amplitude test that basically determines, if you can go to school or not. And even though, yes, universities are getting away from the SAT, there are schools that still adopt this test that tests you on reading and writing, like, comprehension, and test you on your math skills as well. So that's pretty much it for this video. Again, I'm not an expert, but the reason why I am saying this and why I'm making this video, because I do feel like that there are certain students and people in life that do have it harder in America and is truly underprivileged. We talk about privilege, we talk about who can say the N-word, who can't say the N-word, and we talk about culture appropriation, but there are issues where there are people that are actually being affected by a multitude of things like poverty. Also, feel free to comment and express your opinion within the comments, or any facts that you have. Feel free to say if I'm wrong or if I'm right. Again, like, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but at the same time, I do think that we should integrate different types of topics instead of just one singular topic or the same topic that's always being through the news and social media.